Rick Ginn here with Flip with Rick, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to vet and qualify cash buyers for your wholesale operation to find out if they're actually legit. So I've really made this simple for you. You just have to remember this acronym. It's called PASAR, P-A-S-A-R. And I'm going to walk you through step by step in our operations here at Flip with Rick on how we vet our cash buyers. So let's dive in. Number one, P stands for proof. We don't want to spend time with cash buyers that don't actually have money to buy. So since we're selling all our properties for cash, the most important thing you can do is verify they have proof of funds. By the way, I've never met a cash buyer that didn't say they were a legitimate cash buyer. It's your job to vet them. So how do I prove it up? Simple. Get a bank statement within the last 30 days. Do not accept a letterhead from like a hard money lender. That's not cash, that's a loan. So make sure it's in the last 30 days. Most page numbers on a bank statement will be numbered. The next best way is a screenshot on your phone. My bank balance is available right here on my phone. If you have a legitimate cash buyer, they will either show you proof on their phone or they'll show you a legitimate bank statement. I do this all the time in my business, and it's what separates me as a cash buyer when I buy deals from other wholesalers. Make sure you're dealing with a cash buyer, not another wholesaler. If they do not pass this proof of funds, move on. You're wasting your time. So the PASAR is set in order of importance. If they cannot prove it, do not move on to the next section of it. So number one is proof. The next one is authority. What do we mean by this? You need to make sure you're talking to the right person that has the authority to take down the transaction. Sometimes they'll say, I got to talk to my wife. I got to talk to my business partner. You need to talk to the person, the decision maker. Do not waste your time with someone that's in between unless it's absolutely necessary. Nothing worse than closing somebody on it and then having to meet somebody else at the property and go through the whole dang thing all over. So you got proof. You want to make sure it's authority. If they're buying in a company name, make sure the company's legit. If it's an inactive company, most likely they're probably spinning you. So it's easy to do a Google search on the company or the person buying. So make sure they have the authority. If they're buying in a company name, just go on the state records and make sure they're an officer that can sign for the company. Really, really simple. So we got proof. They got to have the authority. If you don't have proof or authority, there's no point on moving on. The next one, which is critically important, is speed. Speed is everything in wholesaling. Since we're doing mostly assignment of contract, you've got to make sure that they can close quickly. How do we do that? Well, listen, when you come out to look at the property, we're actually going to walk you through the property, and that's going to be your actual inspection. Most of them have a general idea what it needs for repairs, but there's nothing worse than doing an assignment of contract and then having a 3, 5, or 7 day inspection period. It's so important at speed that you get past the inspection period. We can only go out to the property so many times. Speed is critical. If they seem like they're going to take forever, or maybe this is the first time they've ever bought a property for cash, you probably want to avoid this person. They're going to kill you on speed. So when you meet with your cash buyers, and we're going to finish through the process, make sure they can move quickly. If they seem hesitant, they can't make decisions, or they're very indecisive, or they've shown no proof of speed prior, probably not going to work out for an assignment. Most likely they need a realtor, or they need a 30 or 45 day period. We don't have that kind of time on most of our wholesale deals. So this is where you size up the speed, and I would rate them on like a 1 through 5. If a guy can close stuff in like 7 days and he has the proof and he has the authority, I'm in. Okay, no longer the days where you have 10,000 people on a cash buyers list. If you have a quality of 50 really high-end buyers that pass this PASAR test, your list is much more valuable than the guy with 10,000 people on the list. That's how I've done it over the last 19 years, and that's how you can learn from my exact same steps. So we got proof, you got authority, they've proven their speed, and don't miss that one. The next one we want to do is you need to identify the avatar of your cash buyer for your particular area. How do I do that? What do you mean by that, Rick? It means ideally, who are we looking for on our cash buyers list? So you basically have two types of buyers. You're going to have one that does the heavy rehab. If I get a property that needs a lot of rehab, I want to show the properties to rehabbers. The other one is someone who wants to buy it as is, typically for a rental property or do very, very light fix and flip. These guys don't want to do heavy rehab. They typically want to own them for cash flow purposes and rentals. I'm going to make sure I understand what my buyer is. So you're going to have the heavy rehabber. Only show them heavy rehab stuff because they will beat you up so bad on the stuff, on your nicer stuff. It's a waste of time. And then if you have a landlord, I typically like to show them stuff that's closer to ready to go, and they'll usually pay me more for that property. If you have heavy rehabbers, I don't send them properties that only need like a quick paint. Honestly, I can either do it in my company or I can sell it to a much more of a premium buyer that wants something that's ready to go. Maybe they're struggling on MLS. So once we identify if they're a heavy rehabber or they're a landlord, the next thing we want to do is now we need to verify. How do I know you're saying what you are? So simply, how many cash transactions have you done in the last 12 months? Ask for addresses. Do not take their word for it. Most cash buyers like me can rattle off the last 5 properties they bought for cash. It's simple, it's direct, and it's easy. If you're working with a landlord and he says he's a landlord, ask him how many rentals he has and ask for an address or two. Most landlords like to brag and boast about this. This should be really simple, guys. All you are is proofing up what they say so many times. And I made this mistake, just like you probably make this mistake in the beginning, is you take the buyer's word for it. As I said, I've never met a cash buyer yet that didn't say they're legitimate. Unfortunately, when you go through it, you'll find more are not legitimate than legitimate. A lot of them are wholesalers that are lying to you to try to, get your property under contract and flip it to somebody else. We don't need those types. It doesn't work. That's a whole different. A wholesaler's not a buyer. They're actually, in my opinion, a real estate agent at that point. We're not interested in that. So the last one is, so we've gone through proof, we've gone through authority, we've gone through speed, we've built our ideal avatar buyer, and the last one is relationship. And this is really important. Listen, you only need one buyer. So I'm not looking for you to create a best friend, but you need to size up the relationship of the person. Number one is, I want to make sure you're not a pain in my butt. If they're very difficult and they're fighting you on proof, authority, speed, and avatar, don't be talking to them. You're literally wasting your time. So what you want to do is they've met all your previous qualifications. So you want to meet them most likely at the property. If you want to meet them at a coffee shop, whatever you want to do, meet them before outside and then just test them. And here's the big test. We're going to do assignments. Ask them, have you ever done an assignment before? They're typically, yeah, I do assignments all the time. So John, let me ask you this. If I bought this property for $1 and I'm selling it to you for $100,000, are you okay with that? Sit back and listen to the reaction. If they melt on this, let them go. They're a pain in the ass. Don't show them the property. Don't let them into the property and move on. That's the challenge is if you wait till you let them in the property, start doing all this stuff, then they have access to your seller, and you want to make sure you have the right relationship with these people. If they have a problem for you buying the property for $1 and selling to $100K, then move on. Some people really struggle with how much you paid for a property. In my opinion, you can't hide it because you're doing an assignment. So just get it out of the way. Do not wait till you pull out the assignment agreement. They all melt. Don't wait till you pull out the assignment agreement and the contract to find out that they're struggling. Say you bought the property for $40,000, you're selling it for $100,000. Some freak out over $60,000 assignment. You can actually do it. So get that out of the way so it doesn't blow up at your closing. Once again, walk through and re-verify their information before you let them in the house. I'm going to go over speed. Hey, listen, you got to close this property in 10 days. And to go, yeah, if everything checks out, Rick, I'm completely in. Make sure that when you meet them prior to walking into the property, you know who you're dealing with. So remember, we talked about authority. So if John says he has the authority and then John shows up with his wife and she's going to nitpick it, you got to question who's in authority there. So what I'm trying to tell you is make sure there's no surprises that show up on the walkthrough. So the walkthrough is basically the inspection to do the assignment agreement. So if he says John's just showing up and 4 guys show up in a truck, stop them right there. They could be a wholesaler trying to sneak other people in. It could be other people in the company that want to kick the tires. We cannot risk them upsetting our sellers by trampling like 9 people through at once. So I only want to have 1 buyer show up when I do a property. It's important if you bring 5 or 6 people through, it looks really suspicious a lot of time, and you want to narrow it to bud. I just want the decision maker to walk through the property. And remind them, when you go through the property, this is kind of your walkthrough. This is it. There's no inspection period. So many people make the mistake, and I know I did in the beginning, do not have an inspection period after you walk through. You're giving them a good price. There's no inspection period. Every now and then you can have them go back like right before you close to make sure it's what it is. That's no big deal. But we're not doing a 3 and 7 day inspection period. That's like real estate agent stuff. We don't do that. They're cash buyers. They have the money. They're going to rehab the property or turn it into a rental, so they know what they're getting. They're usually checking the roof, the foundation, and some basic stuff like that. So really important to remind them. And the one other critical factor in the relationship part is remind them this property is under contract, and under no way or circumstances are they going around you. And they understand that. And if they have the slightest doubt or bad intentions after that, it's your job to sniff it out before they go into that property. So many times wholesalers try to use cash buyers and walk them through the property before they have it under contract. That is an absolute no-no, and it will crush you in this business. They will cut you out every time. Let them know you have a legitimate contract. You're in a binding contract, and they're going to have to go through you to be able to purchase the property. Really, really important. So guys, that's it. It's PASSAR. It is P for proof, A for authority, S for speed, A for avatar, your ideal customer, and R for relationship. Go through them in sequential order. If they don't pass the proof part, don't waste 10, 20, 30 minutes of your valuable time trying to convince a cash buyer why they have to follow your system. Remember, we only need 1 buyer. Do not cater. If they do not follow your system, move on. And if you stop negotiating with yourself on this, you will never waste your time with non-legit cash buyers for your wholesaling business. Guys, this is golden. PASSAR, proof, authority, speed, avatar, and relationship. If you follow this, I've learned this over my 19 years of wholesaling experience, and I want you to use this information so you can avoid a lot of the frustrations that most beginner investors make, and I know I made in the beginning, and I hope this helps everybody out. Listen, if you like what you hear, hit the like button, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.